how do you define false solutions in the context of climate and energy policy? And how do these solutions undermine the goals of a just transition?
Hey, well, I did write a little thingy. I'm going to read it because I was trying to,
Okay.
false solutions are almost anything that proposes to be a solution that doesn't involve cutting fossil fuel use off, right, is a false solution, yeah, as far as I'm concerned. Extraction and use of fossil fuel. And there's all kinds of schemes, most of which serve as distractions from addressing that core thing. And I'll be really interested to see if somebody else has a different answer. But I mean, basically, this hasn't changed, since we've been working on this. And I know that real solutions are going to take a lot of work, and especially at this point where a lot of things people have been trying are actually being blocked and stuff. But we're not going to get there if we keep wasting time on these false solutions, which includes the whole carbon market thing. And all I see is people just trying to develop variations on that theme, you know. So to me, those are the false solutions. And it's very prominent. I also feel like a lot of people, just the same way that people don't know what geoengineering is, and I hear more and more, thing like I listen in NPR, National Public Radio, and stuff like that to see what they're talking about. And I've heard a little bit of stuff about geoengineering, but very little. It usually just disappears. There might be one show, but nobody follows up. And so to me, yeah, those are the false solutions, and they are designed to distract us. And I think we need to really be honest with ourselves that the people behind this is the fossil fuel industry, as they love geoengineering, right? Because the trouble with that is I never ever hear anyone involved in that process talk about cutting fossil fuel use, right?
Mhm.
It's kind of like, what did somebody say? Like going to AA and you keep drinking or something like that. Like it's just, or like or going on some diet, but you keep eating just the way you always did, right?
Right,
Like
right.
there's something off about this. And I mean, those are lame comparisons, but it's kind of like that. And I think one of the things that's happening with us working in this kind of outlier field is that we're learning things that aren't talked about on the daily, right? So there's um, a geoengineer, probably the most prominent of them. David Keith is his name. He was at Harvard. Their project there was called ScopeX. It was all about shooting stuff at the sun. And he moved to the University of Chicago, probably because there was too much heat on Harvard a few years ago. People were starting to examine what they're doing. Um, but he was also owner of a carbon capture company, and that company is called Carbon Engineering. And during our time working on this, he sold it for millions of dollars. He's
Mhm.
very wealthy now. And I didn't learn that the purchaser of that company was Occidental Petroleum.
Ah, interesting.
Mhm. And Oxy moved it to a place called Squamish, British Columbia, which is about like 50 miles north of Vancouver. I guess a lot of people knew that. I didn't know it. I met somebody who works there at the women's carbon capture lunch. And so my own colleagues there, and I graduated from Simon Fraser University in Vancouver. I know Vancouver and Canada pretty well. They don't know about this stuff, right? I mean, I feel like I have to make another trip just to agitate or something. That wasn't the focus of this journey, but um those guys are, the geoengineering scientists are entrepreneurial. I suppose all scientists patent their inventions. I guess that's how it works. But, this is way too linked, right?
Yeah.